Well, today I have a little bit of a strange sander shootout. Three sanders that I'm not sure you see that many comparisons of. I just happen to own all three for reasons that will become apparent. Got a 5mm stroke 3M Xtract sander, but a 5-inch. The Festool 150/5 and the Bosch's version of the Rotex. So that's a 5mm stroke, a 5mm stroke, and I think it's a 4.5mm stroke for the Bosch. I figured I'd see how they all compare in terms of noise, dust collection, and efficiency. Even though the 3M is 5-inch, it's just what I have, so it's the best comparison that I can make. For noise, I'm going to compare all of these hooked up to a DeWalt Stealth Sonic vacuum. So I'm going to get the noise of the vacuum itself, the sander itself, and then the sander and the vacuum together. Because of the size of the dust ports being different on the different sanders, it results in different noise levels per combination. Okay, each sander now is going to be 30 inches from the sensor, which is about how far my ear is away from it when I'm sanding something. Here's the Stealth Sonic DeWalt shop vac by itself. Same distance. We're going in reverse order. Here's the Bosch. The Festool. And the Xtract 3M. In combination with that shop vac at 30 inches. The Bosch plus the shop vac at 30 inches. Here we go. Okay, now it's the Festool with the shop vac at 30 inches. I will say the Festool with the smaller dust port has more of a whistling sound with the airflow. I ran sanding comparison tests to see how long it would take to sand this piece of poplar. What I did was sand it evenly to the grit 80 and then tested each of them to erase the lines at the same grit. Repeated those tests at 120 and 220 grits. So there'll be a chart here in a minute. We're also going to get some volume comparisons with each of the sanders. Brand new 3M Cubitron sandpaper for each test. Each sander's at their maximum speed. a chart with all the results from the speed tests. I will say the sander in use with the Stelsonic vac on, the 3M was quieter than the other two. I think the Festool would wind up being as quiet if the dust port was larger. You can see the comparison between Festool's dust port size versus the 3M Xtract one. The 3M's is significantly larger, which leads to less of a whistling sound from the dust extraction. But they're all within a few decibels of each other, and they're all in the 90s to 100, so ear protection on for all of them anyway. The speed test was a little bit of a surprise. You'll see that in the chart. The Festool winds up winning that overall with these three exact sanders, but the 3M has a 40% smaller sanding pad, and it doesn't completely cover this piece of poplar in one go. So I think ultimately the 3M is probably the fastest, and it certainly feels like the most aggressive of the three, although it's not hugely different compared to the Festool. The Bosch, not as aggressive, not as fast, a lot noisier, way heavier, but it routinely goes on sale for like $220 on Amazon. It's really hard to beat it for the cost, and it has the turbo mode, which is like the Rotex mode. It's gear driven. That's a hard sander to pass up for the price, in my opinion. I have all three because my Xtract sander has gone in, it's died and gone in and been repaired, and then it's not the most reliable sander, I guess, and I'm going to keep it and keep using it until if it dies again, it's out of warranty, and they're not going to fix it again. So that's probably one of the bigger power tool failures as a launch in a while, because it's a really nice sander. Like I said, it's very aggressive, not super heavy, not super loud, and a couple $100 cheaper than the Festool. And I think they're pretty comparable. The 3M might be a little bit more aggressive, but that also makes it a little harder to prevent the pigtail swirls. But there it is. That's the simple comparison.